Another Sunday passes by, another AEW pay-per-view in the books. On this podcast, we will be covering All Elite Wrestling All Out 2021 and one match on the show that many are calling
the greatest wrestling match ever.
Or at least one of the greatest tag team matches ever, but you get the point. We'll also be talking about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's WWE contracts coming up, and one of them alluding to possibly going to AEW. I checked out Utami Hayashishita versus Syuri from 5-Star Grand Prix Day 9. I'll be talking a little bit about that, as well as getting into a mini review of New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Grandslam at MetLife Dome, the September 4th show, and G1 Climax 31 brackets, and who I believe is going to win this year's G1 Climax. This, guys, is episode 64 of the Chill Spill podcast. The S is silent, by the way. Yo, what is going on, guys? It is your boy Tyler Mask, aka Suplex, that's SOOPLEX, on TikTok. Which, quick little announcement, I will be starting something different on TikTok today. I'll be watching AEW Dynamite and doing some post-show or really during the show reactions to what I'm watching. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, make sure you go follow me on TikTok. That's SOOPLEX. And SOOPLEXX on Twitch.tv, which I am streaming over there at least a few times a week. Go check that out. AKA Tyler-kun Williams, AKA the one who lived. And guys, welcome back to the 64th edition of the Chill Spill podcast. And that is Spill, spelled with an S, but it's silent, much like the moment we're going to give to the late great Daffney. Yes, if you heard that correctly, last Wednesday, I believe, we did lose another professional wrestler. That being Shannon Spurrill, I believe her last name is, otherwise known to many of you for her time in WCW and her time in TNA Impact Wrestling as Daffney. She committed suicide in her home, gunshot wound to the chest. I believe it was last week, she actually went live on either Instagram or Twitter, and she was having a almost like a panic attack of some sort. And it was really scaring a lot of people because she had a gun, and that led to a lot of people calling the police station, reporting what happened. And then news came out a few days later that she passed on. She took her own life, and it is very upsetting to hear because it very much took me back to last year when we were speaking on the death of Hana Kimura, who also took her own life. Now that it could be chalked up to a lot of things. A lot of people say cyberbullying, but I think there's a lot of other methods that go into that, not just cyberbullying, but that's besides the point. With Daffney, she was dealing with a lot of concussions, CTE, post-concussion trauma. I believe she also had bipolar disorder, not to, medically or clinically diagnose her or anything, but, when you're going through all those mental health issues, those thoughts, they spur up sometimes. I've never thought about committing suicide, but my mind has gone to a dark place, a couple times in my life. So, when you hear stuff like that, and then you hear that, the act actually came to be where they, actually did go through with taking their own life, it's always really upsetting to hear, because there's always help out there. There's always somebody who's willing to listen. There's always somebody who is willing to hear you out and let you know that you're important and your life matters. And I just want to take this time to say some words about Daffney. Now, listen, I did not really watch her career prior to her time in TNA Impact. I did know she was in WCW, but I did not watch WCW growing up, nor did I really get around to watching WCW as an adult. I have seen some shows, I've seen some matches, but don't ask me about existential WCW knowledge because I couldn't tell you. She did spend some time in WCW in the early part of her career, After WCW went under, she went to Impact Wrestling, TNA Impact, and that's where I know her best was her time at TNA Impact, because I started watching TNA back when it was TNA Impact Cross the Line, and that was back in, I want to say, 2007. Yeah, 2007. It was. I remember like it was yesterday. I was off school that day. I think it was a weekend, and I was a big wrestling fan at the time. Watched Monday Night Raw. I think at the time it was still Friday Night SmackDown. They moved to Tuesday and Thursday during like the last 15 years, but I think it was on Fridays back when I was younger. I watched WWE, and WWE was all I knew. That's all I knew about wrestling. I didn't know about New Japan. AEW was not a thing. I didn't know about WCW. Actually, I did know of WCW, but I didn't watch it. I didn't know how else to watch WCW. I didn't know about any other wrestling aside from WWE and ECW, because at that time, WWE owned ECW. So one day, I'm sitting back at my dad's house, and I'm going through Xfinity Video on Demand, because back in the day when DVR wasn't a thing, you would go to the Comcast On Demand network, and that was our internet basically. And nowadays you could go on YouTube, Dailymotion, or whatever to watch wrestling matches. Back in the day, you had to go to your TV remote, go to On Demand, and just watch old Raw shows, or you had DVD sets. But I was on Demand. I was just looking for shows, and I ran through all the Raws, and I'm like, all right, well, none to watch. I'm flicking through the channels, and I land on Spike TV. Now, mind you, I'm not inept to what Spike TV was. I believe at the time there was like maybe 2 shows I watched on Fight TV. I forgot what the one show was called, but it was about these 2 guys, and they would go to like these shops that were like basically breaking down or being torn down, and they would basically just take hammers and just break shit. And being a boy, that shit just riled me up. I don't know why. I don't know what the show was called, but they used to just go around breaking shit, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then I think the other show was 1,000 Ways to Die. Those are the 2 shows I watched on Spike TV when I was younger. But I was going through Spike TV, expecting to see one of those shows, and I didn't. Instead, I came upon a wrestling show, TNA Impact, and I'm like, well, this isn't WWE. I mean, I don't think it's WWE. I saw they had Sting on there, and I knew who Sting was by name, but I didn't know who he actually was, because I never saw him wrestle up until that point. I saw Sting, I saw Booker T, I saw Kurt Angle, and I'm like, well, these are WWE guys, but this isn't WWE. What is this? And seeing those names on there, it kind of kept me peeled. And at the time, I love wrestling, so it's like, okay, I'm not like so WWE loyalist that I'm not going to watch the show because it's not WWE. So I sat down and I watched it, and I liked it. I liked what I saw. I saw the beautiful people, which young me was kind of with the beautiful people. The beautiful people was on the show. Kurt Angle, Awesome Kong, Gail Kim, Taylor Wilde. But the one woman that really stood out on the show to me, oddly enough, was Daffney, and it was because she just had this very dark, and as commentators call her, zombie hot, like grim look to her. You have the roster like the beautiful people who are just pretty uppity, girl next door type vibes. You have Awesome Kong, the big brute. You have Gail Kim, who's your traditional wrestler who could kick ass. You have your Taylor Wilds. You have your Rosita and Saritas from LAX. Everybody had their colorful characters, but then there's Daffney. And Daphne's like all black. She had the trademark top hat. I'll always remember her for that, because she was the only person I knew who wore the top hat. So whenever I saw that in any other like anime, cosplay, I would immediately think of Daffney. She just had the look. And in the ring, I don't remember her being like tremendous, but she was good from what I remember being in the ring. And she was just such a unique character. And her being aligned with Abyss and Crazy Steve. Was it Crazy Steve or Crazy? I don't remember what the guy's name was, but she was aligned with this faction, and I thought they were just the coolest thing. And just the feud she was in, and I just really like Daffney. I remember her entering a feud with the beautiful people, and I don't know if it was exactly her that turned into a spoof of, I want to say it was John McCain's at the time, because John McCain was running for president with Barack Obama. John McCain's vice president to potentially be, I believe, was Sarah Palin. She was running a Sarah Palin gimmick, and it was just the funniest thing. And I thought she played it off pretty well, if I'm correct, if that was her. I'm pretty sure that was her, though. And, like I said, I just remember Daffney from her time in TNA Impact. I cannot recall too much else of her work, but she had an impact on me in that way. She really changed the course of how I saw female wrestlers, because at that point, watching WWE, I only knew of female wrestlers to have the colorful, in-your-face kind of, pretty, preppy gimmicks. I never really knew a female wrestler to have that dark, grim Undertaker-like gimmick until I saw Daffney. So that really opened my eyes to seeing what else is out there in terms of female wrestling, and for that, I really have to thank her. So if there's nothing else I can say, it's thank you, Daffney. Thank you for your time and dedication to the pro wrestling ring. And make sure you put on some 5-star matches up in Wrestle Heaven. Before we do continue on, I do want to stress, if you guys, any of you out there, are ever feeling like you're going through a rough time or a dark patch, or you need somebody to talk to, just hit up your closest friends. Just talk to somebody. Somebody will listen to you, I swear to you. And if you ever feel like it's too much, and you feel the urge to possibly take your own life, there are multiple suicide hotline numbers out there. But for those of you who live in North America, because that's most of my fan base, the number to call is 1-800-273-8255. Protect your mental health, and please take care of yourselves. And with that being said, we'll continue on the podcast. So, I know a lot of the hot topic to talk about right now is Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, one of the main staples in WWE right now, has been in the news as of late for some tweets he made. I'll talk about the tweets in a second, but let's talk about this report coming from Fightful. And that is that Kevin Owens' contract is expiring soon. Now, if they would have never said anything, I wouldn't have even thought about Kevin Owens coming over to AEW. But here's what I can tell you. So it is to be believed that Kevin Owens inked a 5-year deal with WWE back in 2018. That will lock him into a contract until 2023. It has since been revealed that Kevin Owens' WWE contract is set to expire in January of 2022 now, due to a pre-pandemic restructuring of the contracts. Now, nobody knows why contracts were restructured, but the fact of the matter is, a lot of talent who should be up for renewal may be going up sooner rather than later, and Kevin Owens is one of them. Now, honestly, if you would have asked me a week or so ago, I would have told you there might be smoke to the fire, but I don't see KO going anywhere. Kevin Owens has been treated very well in WWE, and, I just don't see him moving. I just don't see him hopping or jumping ship. But that would have been a week or two ago. Now you have guys like Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson in AEW. It's like, I don't know, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Talk about that a bit later on. Adam Cole, somebody who I literally just spoke about like a few seconds ago. He's a guy who accomplished a lot in his time in NXT. NXT champion, NXT Tag Team Champion through the Freebird rule, NXT North American Champion, main event in multiple takeovers, main event in many NXT shows, top feuds, was in the top faction in NXT. He was the guy in NXT for about 4 years. And when it was his time to renew, he had two choices. He could renew and go to Raw or SmackDown because there's nothing left for him on NXT. Or he can leave and go somewhere else. The first option of going to Raw or SmackDown sounds logical. You're going to make more money and you'll be on, primetime television. But that's where we get into discussion of how it will work out for him. Because you look at the track record of many other WWE call-ups and it does not work out too well for them. Adam Cole, you could say, oh, well, he was treated so well in NXT, it'll work out for him. But you look at the size of Adam Cole, and then you say, well, that's probably not what Vince is looking for. Or he could leave. He could go somewhere else where he'll make maybe not as much money unless he goes to, the secondary company to go to these days. But he'll have the notoriety, he'll have the popularity and the value to make enough money and to be a top star wherever he goes. And he chose the latter. He chose to take his ball, and 2 weeks after his match with Kyle O'Reilly at NXT TakeOver 36, he turned up in AEW. Much to the shock of many. Some say it was not too shocking, but I attest that. I believe that, I believe that he was probably making his way over, but then just the thought that this guy was just on NXT 2 weeks ago, that was more shocking than anything. Just how fast it went. A lot of wrestlers tend to take some time to themselves, let fans debate, debacle. And there was some time, but this was fast. This is a fast ship jump for Adam Cole. But like I said, Adam Cole, he was the guy that jumped ship and very fast, and it makes sense. Kevin Owens, I feel like, is kind of in a similar boat where he rose to the top of NXT much, much faster than Adam Cole did. Didn't spend nearly as much time. I think Kevin Owens was only NXT for like, what, a year? Not even a full year, I think, because he came in NXT in 2014, and then literally 2-3 months later, he was the NXT champion. And then by, 2015, like mid-2015, he was on a main roster feuding with John Cena as the NXT champion. And then a few months later, he was on the main roster permanently. So he really did not spend nearly even a quarter of the time that Adam Cole was in NXT. But he accomplished a lot in that time, went to the main roster, feuded with his best friend Sami Zayn, tremendous tag team and rivalry with Chris Jericho, had other programs with the likes of Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, the best in the world, Shane McMahon, just to name a few, became the second ever Universal Champion, a 2-time IC champion, and a 3-time US champion. Now, you could say he has not accomplished a few other things, that being a tag team champion, the WWE champion, Money in the Bank winner, Royal Rumble winner. He still has some things left to accomplish, but in the 5 years he's been in WWE, 6 years I should say, almost 7, he's been in WWE, he's accomplished enough to say that, if he wanted to take his ball and go somewhere else, he could. He's 37 years old, not getting any younger. He's not old yet, but 37 years old, you're getting up to your prime years in pro wrestling. I would say that come January 2022, unless they can, it depends. I think it depends, because Kevin Owens has already started teasing it on Twitter. In a now deleted tweet, he put out a tweet that was map coordinates. And if you put those coordinates on Google Maps, it takes you to the prolific U.S. monument, Mount Rushmore, which one could say is a nod to a pairing in PWG that was Kevin Steen, the Young Bucks, and Adam Cole. And given what we saw at the end of AEW All Out, that could lead one to assume that maybe Kevin Steen might be looking to come to AEW very soon. But then, I don't know. But here is the thing. There have been so many people in the last few months, in the last month really, that have come to AEW that at this point, I can't even say it's not going to happen. I can say that it's likely. I could say that maybe it's not likely to happen, but I can't honestly say that it won't happen. Because we've seen so many people cross over to AEW that at this point, I can buy just about anybody going to AEW. I can buy just about anybody. Maybe I would even say with the exception of even Roman Reigns. But I don't know. Roman Reigns has accomplished everything too. So who's to say when his contract comes up that Roman Reigns may not be taking a look at AEW. I mean, realistically, he probably won't. But still, it's just the fact of the matter that there is this other promotion that could possibly pay you just as much money, if not possibly more money, and guarantee you a top spot. Why not take that money? Why not take that position? Why not try something different? Why not wrestle other people? That's the kind of mindset you have to have when you're really debating on, do you want to stay in WWE or do you want to go to AEW? You take that into account in real life. Let's say you're in the same position, similar position. You know, you've been at your job for about 4 or 5 years, doing the same thing every day, talking to the same people every day. You know, it gets boring after a while. There's this other company, though. You could do something similar, but you're around new people, new management, doing similar things, but obviously different workplace environment. So not the exact same thing you're doing. They're going to pay you similar money, possibly even more. There's room to make more, but similar money. Maybe not the same benefits, but you take that all into account and you ask yourself, do I want to stay where I'm at? Comfortable. Been here for a few years. I know everybody. I know what I'm doing. Easy work. Or do I take this chance and go to a new place where I could make new friends, get new possibilities, new opportunities? I don't know, man. The more you think about it, say it out loud. Why not take the other job? I could see if you were going to make less money, because at the end of the day, when you're talking about reality and a job that's not an art form like pro wrestling, I think it boils down to money and happiness. And money always comes first, obviously, but happiness is comes secondary for a lot of people. If the job is going to make you happy, that comes into play. But if that job is paying you some amount of money, then it's easy. Go with the second job. Go with the second job. So I see where a lot of these wrestlers come from. And I feel like Kevin Owens likely is making his way over to AEW very soon. Either that or he's just teasing and he wants WWE to lobby more money at him. But we'll see in due time. But I'm not even done. Because Kevin Owens' best friend, former tag team partner, one of his greatest rivals, if not his greatest rival, Sami Zayn, his contract is also coming up very soon. An article from Sportskeeda dating back to last year, they talk on this topic. And to quote the article wrote up by, I want to say, Vatsal Rathod. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Probably not. The article says that in 2019, Sami Zayn confirmed his contract status with WWE in an interview with TVA Sports, revealing that he signed a 3-year contract with WWE in the summer of 2018. His contract was extended due to his injury and will expire in the fall of 2021. So, as of right now, we're on the autumn of 2021. The fall is literally next month. This could mean his contract expiring any time from this month to November. Within the next 2 months, Sami Zayn could be on his way out of WWE and into AEW. Now, here's the thing about Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn has not accomplished nearly as much as Kevin Owens has. Sami Zayn had a longer run in NXT, a shorter run as NXT champion, but you could even say a longer and even better run in NXT. When he got caught up to main roster, Sami Zayn was kind of used as their babyface, but not a top babyface that they can shoehorn in there whenever they want. He kind of remained in this position where not much was happening with him. I think he may have been, at one time IC champion, but that was later on. Then he turned heel. He joined forces with Kevin Owens, and then they went up against each other. Sami Zayn has had a pretty uneventful WWE run, I should say that much. I think he's had some good matches. He's had some good feuds, but to say that his run in WWE has been, main roster has been eventful would be a massive, massive understatement. I feel as though Sami Zayn was capable of so much more than what he has done in WWE. And that's not to say that he was buried. It's just to say that they could have done more with him and they just didn't. So the thing about Sami Zayn is that I feel like he's not in the same position as Kevin Owens where it's like, okay, I've done enough. I think Sami Zayn is in this position where I haven't done enough. And maybe he might be looking at that as, if I stay and make more money, maybe they'll see more value. Or he could see it as, they don't value me the way that they should, and I can go to this other company where I will likely be valued more and could potentially be a top babyface on their company, as El Generico. You know, if I'm Sami Zayn, I'm looking for the exit door. I'm looking for the exit door. I don't see Sami Zayn being a WWE or Universal Champion. I don't think they see Sami Zayn in that way. I don't think they see Sami Zayn in the way that they see Kevin Owens. That's very apparent to the point where Kevin Owens has been in the main event scene multiple times in his WWE run. Can you name me a time where Sami Zayn has main evented a WrestleMania? I mean, Kevin Owens is main evented one. Let me correct that. Where Sami Zayn has main evented a pay-per-view? Has Sami Zayn ever main evented a WWE pay-per-view? I don't think so. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall Sami Zayn ever main eventing a WWE pay-per-view, not counting an NXT TakeOver. That alone should tell you that they do not value Sami Zayn in the same way they value Kevin Owens. So yeah, they might try to lobby money at him to get him to stay, but at what cost is that going to be? Do you think they're going to push him more? I don't think so. I think Sami Zayn's on his way out too. So when you boil it down, if AEW manages to get Kevin Steen and El Generico in the 3-month period, that's more talent for them. And I'll go back to it again. They want to ease up on how many people they sign, because they already approached 100 people signed under their contract now. Signed under their promotion now. With 100 people and over 80 men, well, nearing 80 men, you really think you could book 80 men prominently on your top shows, Dynamite and Rampage? Really, Dynamite is your top show? I don't know. Who's to say when El Generico comes in that he isn't in the same role that Andrade is in? Where Andrade signed with AEW. He comes in. And Andrade hasn't really been booked that prominently. Not in the way that a guy like Malachi Black has been. Not in the way that a guy like Bryan Danielson or CM Punk will be. He's kind of, I don't want to say fallen to the wayside a bit, but he hasn't really done much. Who's to say that El Generico won't get the Andrade treatment? And that's not to say that Andrade can't get, a big push in the future. But who is to say that will not happen? So that's also something that they need to consider when you're signing with AEW, is that there is such a big pool for them to choose from that you could get lost in the shuffle. So I don't know. Sami Zayn might have to consider that as well. He's not a top star like a Kevin Owens was in WWE. He could have been, but he just wasn't. I'll pan over to you guys, though. You're Sami Zayn. Are you staying in WWE or are you signing with AEW? Comment down below, let me know. If you're Kevin Owens, are you staying with WWE or are you signing with AEW? Comment down below, let me know. And with all that out the way, guys, let me get into my review of All Elite Wrestling All Out 2021. And what I could confidently say is one of the greatest wrestling pay-per-views I have ever seen. That show, top to bottom, mwah, fucking great. And we'll start off with the pre-show, the buy-in, as they call it. Best Friends and Jurassic Express teaming up to go up against the Hardy Family Office, to be exact. Wheeler Yuta, Chuck Taylor, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, and there's one more guy I'm missing. Oh, and Orange Cassidy versus Matt Hardy, Private Party, and Helico and Jack Evans. This was a good tag team match. Like, of all the buy-in matches they've had, because they've had buy-ins for every pay-per-view, and for the most part, I think every match is good. Maybe some are okay. This is probably one of the better pre-show matches I've seen from AEW. Just really, really fun. A lot of action. The Best Friends won the match. It was enjoyable. That's really all I have to say about it. Nothing too crazy. We get into the main show, and we open up with the AEW TNT Championship match. Miro defending against Eddie Kingston. This was much better than I expected it to be. I would even say it was definitely Eddie Kingston's best match in AEW. You can say, oh, what about his match with Jon Moxley? What about his match with Cody Rhodes? This one, I like the pacing of it. It was very All Japan, like old school All Japan-esque pacing. A lot of chops, a lot of heavy hits. Kingston splicing in the Saito suplexes, building up to the DDT spots onto Miro. It was just so greatly timed and so greatly paced. And I just felt like they really went out there and had one of the sleeper matches of the show. Easily one of my favorite matches of the show. I definitely think that it's worth a check out, even if you're not a big fan of either wrestler in the ring. I would check it out just for the notion of how different this match feels from every other match on the show. And Miro did win the match with a Moxie kick to the face of Eddie Kingston to retain the AEW TNT Championship. What's next for Eddie Kingston is a good question to ask when you have people like Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson in AEW. There's a lot going in. There's a lot of big names on AEW. This is much as I have to say. There's like 80 men signed. Miro will never run out of opponents as long as he's the champion. After that, we get into Jon Moxley versus Satoshi Kojima. Another match that is unlike a lot of the matches on this show. This one was very New Japan-esque in pacing. I've seen enough New Japan matches to know New Japan match when I see one. Elbows, chops, lariats. I saw some penalty kicks from Jon Moxley, which shocked the hell out of me. Because in his entire WWE run, I have never known Dean Ambrose to use kicks. But in here, this motherfucker was kicking Satoshi in the chest, and I was shocked. I was on the floor. Kojima was in here doing his Kojima shit. And it was just really good. It was an easily enjoyable match from these two men to have. And Jon Moxley won with the paradigm shift. And he got the win. And no one expected Satoshi to win. But nobody expected the man that came out afterwards. We hear Kaze Ninare playing, and the king, Minoru Suzuki, walks out to a tremendous pop from the crowd. It popped the hell out of me because it was unexpected. I wasn't even thinking about Minoru Suzuki. Wasn't even thinking about him. But then he came out. And the roof blew off the place. They went at it. I mean, they had at least one good minute in the ring with each other. And Minoru Suzuki laid out Jon Moxley with the God-style power driver. And it's already been announced for this week on Dynamite. We're getting Jon Moxley versus Minoru Suzuki. I'm so fucking amped for that match. I can't wait. It's going to be great. I'm probably going to watch the match from New Japan Pro Wrestling, I believe New Beginning in, I want to say, Osaka 2020. Just to rewatch that match to see how it goes. And then rewatch tonight and watch tonight's match and see how that goes. It's going to be fun. But two matches back-to-back really good. Then you get into the AEW Women's Championship match between Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, versus Chris Statlander. This was not as good as the last two matches, but it was still very good. Still very good. Chris Statlander, she's very good in the ring. Britt Baker, she's improving every day, and I feel like she has become one of the staple parts of AEW, if you ask me. I can't really detail too much in here because I didn't put a lot of notes down, but like I said, very good match. Dr. Britt Baker, she won the match with the lockjaw finish, and that made Chris Statlander pass out. Britt Baker retained the AEW Women's Championship. Really good shit. Then after that, now mind you, we just had two good matches, back to back. How did they follow this up? Well, they followed up with the AEW Tag Team Championship match held in a steel cage between the Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers. First off, the Lucha Bros come out with one of the best entrances AEW has ever put on. It was almost like an opera to start. Then it goes into the producer for the Lucha Bros theme song singing them out. The Lucha Bros had this awesome, tacular attire, and it was just an outstanding entrance. And normally, I'm so conditioned by WWE logic to think that when somebody has a great entrance, they're losing. So that was my mistake of betting against them. But they had such a great entrance, and the Young Bucks came out with probably one of the least eyesore attires they've had in a long time, which was nice. But the bell rung, and holy shit, did we get one of the greatest tag team matches of all time. I'm not going to sit here and call any spots. You have to go out of your way, and you have to watch this match. You have to seek out this tag team match that these guys had. It is easily a 10 out of 10, 5 stars, whatever you want to call it. It's one of the go-to matches of tag team wrestling. It's not a tag team, a normal traditional tag team classic with hot tags and all. But if you're into the tornado style, if you're into blood, and you're into crazy spots that you know the Lucha Bros and Young Bucks are going to have, this offers it to you. And yeah, we saw some crazy-ass dives. And we even saw Phoenix go to the top of the cage, a 20-foot-tall cage, and dive off that motherfucker onto the Young Bucks and even Pentagon, which I didn't understand. And then right after the fact, he lifted him up for an assisted power driver onto Matt Jackson. He pins him, and the Lucha Bros become your new AEW Tag Team Champions, much to the excitement, the elatement of the crowd, and the people at home, and myself and my buddy George. We were on the moon, guys. This match was fucking amazing. Go seek it out. Please. I beg of you. Do I believe it is the greatest tag team match of all time? I don't know. I have to watch it back again. I've only seen this match once. I think I'm going to have to see it again. I'll probably watch it again probably today. When you compare this to other tag team matches, it's weird because you got to grade this on a different spectrum. Because when you talk about this match and you talk about the Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega, Heyman Page, they're two different paced, structured matches. Kenny Omega and Heyman Page versus the Young Bucks was a traditional tag team match that was formatted in such a way that made it a go-to match. This was a steel cage match. There aren't many tag team steel cage matches documented in wrestling history. So when you compare this to other tag team steel cage matches, yes, this is the greatest tag team steel cage match of all time. If you want to document this with other tag team cage matches in general, this might be the greatest tag team cage match of all time. But when you compare this up to the likes of Omega and Page versus the Bucks, or Omega and Ibushi versus the Bucks, or the Usos versus the New Day, or I don't know, many other tag team matches out there, it feels like it's very hard because they're not formatted or laid out the same way. In general, that's definitely very subjective. Once again, I gotta watch it again to really say if I believe it's the greatest tag team match I've ever seen. I don't know. I still have it up there with Page and Omega versus the Bucks. So I don't know. I gotta watch it again. But it is a go-to tag team match. I'll say that much. So a first half of the show was tremendous. A tremendous first half, but we get into the Women's Casino Battle Royale. And listen, we had a lot of good women in this match. It was not the best Casino Battle Royale match they've had. They've had better. I think that it is slightly better than the first women's match they had. That was at last year's All Out. But in here, we had a lot of good eliminations. Even one very weird bots elimination from Riho. But the Joker card was what everybody was talking about. Everyone was wondering who the Joker card would be. Now, to be fair, most people thought it was Ruby Soho, and it ended up being Ruby Soho. But she got a good pop. She came out. She ran wild. Had some eliminations. It came down to the final two, Ruby Soho and Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa being a good pick that many people had pegged in here. Two baby faces, which is a very interesting final two to have. And they went at it, and it was Ruby Soho with the elimination to Thunder Rosa winning this match. So she is primed for a match with Britt Baker in the future for the Women's Championship. I like to assume that will probably be at Arthur Ashe Stadium. Thunder Rosa, she lost this match. Many people say she should have won this match. I think that there is a place for a Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker match, and it did not have to come with her winning this match. So though I do agree that Thunder Rosa could have won this match and would have made sense, they are going to do Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker again. It's going to happen again at some point. She did not need to win this Battle Royal for that match to happen. So Ruby Soho, however, if they want to get her match done and out the way, her winning this match was the easiest way to go about it. So I think that though it wasn't needed, it makes sense that Ruby Soho won this match. I get it. After that, we got into Chris Jericho versus MJF. If Chris Jericho loses, it's his last match in AEW. He must retire from in-ring competition. So MJF came out to a Y2J entrance. So the countdown starts, and everyone thinks this is Chris Jericho's entrance. It's his final match. And then it comes up, and it says Chris Jericho's final match, and the crowd boos. They know it's MJF, and he comes out. MJF is just such a great heel, man. Now, in the ring, these two had a good match. I thought it was maybe one of the weaker matches on the show, but it was still a good match. And it came down to a dusty finish. So MJF, Chris Jericho, they're duking it out. And Chris Jericho gets, I believe he gets out of the Salt of the Earth submission. MJF smartly goes for a Judas effect and hits it onto Chris Jericho. Now Chris Jericho is near the ropes. You know what's coming. He goes for the pin. 1, 2. Referee hits the 3 count. Aubrey Edwards hits the 3 count. Now, in the midst of the 3 count, Jericho puts his foot on the rope. Now, technically, I even saw this on the first run. Jericho was like maybe a smidgen late for that rope break. So, technically, you can argue that Chris Jericho still lost because his foot was on the rope in enough time. But storyline-wise, we'll roll with the fact that he had his foot on the rope. Foot was on the rope. Aubrey Edwards caught it right after the 3 count. The referee is talking to another referee while the theme song's playing. MJF is under the opinion that he won the match. Aubrey's like, no. Oh, foot was on the rope. Referees consulting with each other. The match restarts. They get another 2 minutes. And this 2 minutes was very action-based. A lot of false finishes in here. And it led to Chris Jericho locking a lion tamer onto MJF and tapping him out to win the match. Chris Jericho is still safe and is still wrestling in AEW. Like I said, good match. I think that finish could potentially, hopefully not. I think this feud should be over, but could potentially lead to another match, but I hope not. I hope this is the end. They've been feuding. Technically, their feud started back in full gear of 2020. It's been a year. I'm ready for MJF to move on to other things. I'm ready for Chris Jericho to move on to other things. Let this be. Let this be. So then we move on to the most anticipated match of the show. Darby Allin going up against the returning CM Punk. Punk's first match in over 7 years. Crowd was red hot for this match. They were on fire for this match. And it was slow to start. And it was very interesting to see Darby Allin doing lockups and rest holds on CM Punk. But, you know, it's CM Punk, this being his first match back. I wasn't expecting a fast-paced, all-out action match. I wasn't expecting that. But I also wasn't expecting a slower-paced match. Now, at first, I ain't gonna lie. It was really... I was like, all right, when is this gonna pick up? Like, all right, come on. Let's get it going, get it moving. But when it got moving, it started getting really good. And the near fall started coming. And a close call started coming. And one of the best spots of the match was when CM Punk was laid out on the mat. And Darby Allin's going to the top rope for the coffin drop. He hits the coffin drop. Well, he nails it in midair. But as he's coming down, CM Punk does this Undertaker-like sit-up. And Darby Allin just crashes right behind him. And CM Punk just looks at the camera and just like, no. And it's such a cool shot. Such a cool shot. I love it. Another cool shot, another cool homage earlier in the match, like very beginning of the match, is when they first lock up. And Darby Allin arm drags CM Punk down to the mat. And it was an homage to Bret Hart versus 1-2-3 Kid. From, I want to say, a Monday Night Raw episode or a SummerSlam. Please don't quote me on that. But it was an homage to a Bret Hart match. I thought that was a really cool detail. Now, I don't know if that CM Punk sit-up was in reference to The Undertaker or not, but it was a cool spot nonetheless. They went at it for a bit longer. Darby Allin tried for a Slumdog Millionaire, but CM Punk caught him midair in electric chair position, transitioned that into a fireman's carry position, then hit the go to sleep onto Darby Allin, and secured the victory. It was an out of nowhere finish, but I liked it oddly. And CM Punk secured the victory, winning in his first match. Question is, where do you go with CM Punk after Darby Allin? I have no clue, but I'm in for the ride on whatever he does after this. Following that match, we have Paul White versus QT Marshall. This match I did not care for. I don't know why they placed this match right after the CM Punk match. It really killed the crowd because the crowd was riding a high for most of the show. That's really all the show, they're riding a high. So you have to calm down the crowd at some point. I get that. But you calm them down right before the main event. That didn't make any sense to me. Because they were already running out of energy. Then this match cut all their energy out. Now the match wasn't bad, but it was like okay at best. Paul White won the match at the chokeslam. That's all I'm going to say about that. Paul White's match back in Wrestling Ring in AEW. Cool. I'm not hoping for a Paul White run at all. But it was nice to see. Maybe do like a match, one match, a pay-per-view or something like that. People are talking about a Paul White, Shaquille O'Neal match. I mean, alright. I'm not going crazy for it. I think I would have gone crazy for it maybe 10 years ago. But nowadays, not really. It's a marquee match to do. Maybe a like Full Gear or something. So we'll see. We'll see. But then we hop into the main event of the show. Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage for the AEW World Championship. They had a really good match. I feel like I like their Rampage match slightly more, but I have to rewatch this match to really judge that. I didn't feel like it was really anything too crazy to happen. It was really good, though. There was some interference, which I hated. They just can't avoid interferences in these elite matches, apparently. Becoming New Japan elite, it seems like. But Kenny Omega did win the match with an avalanche one-winged angel, which was incredibly dangerous, very risky. I felt like an avalanche one-winged angel could have been hit on somebody more, powerful, more of a threat. I felt like hitting out on Christian Cage was kind of unnecessary. But he hit it, and he got the win with it. Kenny Omega retains. Right after the match, he hops on the microphone. He starts talking trash, saying how there's nobody better. Anybody who is worthy of beating him is already dead. And the lights go out, and out comes Adam Cole, baby. Adam Cole comes down to the ring. Now, mind you, prior to this, the Elite attacked Christian Cage some more, and this brought up with Jurassic Express, and they got beat down by the Elite. So Jurassic Express is in the ring, trying to recuperate. Adam Cole's coming out to a big pop from the crowd. Gets into the ring, face-to-face with Kenny Omega. Nobody knows what's going to happen. You see Jungle Boy in the corner getting up to his feet, and Adam Cole super kicks him. And he super kicks him. He looks at the Young Bucks, and they embrace. He hugs it out, the Young Bucks. They kiss him on the cheek, and Adam Cole has joined the Elite. And I said as much on last week's podcast. Two things are going to happen. Adam Cole is either going to feud with the Elite or he's going to join the Elite. And he has done the latter and he has joined the Elite. And I'm not mad at that. Now I'm going to take a little snippet of my podcast last week and splice it in here. If Adam Cole were to make his debut in AEW, here's how I see it playing out. I think there's two ways of going about this. I think that A, he joins the Elite, because right now with the Elite, it's Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, the Good Brothers, Brandon Cutler, and I think that's it. Don Callis, if you count him as a manager. But that's the Elite. So you have Kenny Omega, who's occupying the AEW Tag Team Championships. You have the Young Bucks occupying the Tag Team Championships. So would it be cool to have Adam Cole come in and occupy the TNT Championship, maybe? I mean, if you do that, you kind of... I don't want to say it's almost like demoralizing to Adam Cole, but it does kind of bring him down a bit if he goes straight after the TNT and not the AEW World Championship. But then again, you got to remember, Adam Cole, he's gonna fit in any position you put him in. I think he'll excel greatly in the main event scene. But you don't need to have him in the main event scene right now, especially because you're bringing in guys like Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. I think you don't want to oversaturate too much with your main event scene, because then the rest of your undercard is going to look weak. So I think that when you bring in someone like a CM Punk, and I don't think CM Punk should be competing for the AEW World Championship right now. Daniel Bryan, I think that's another case, and I'll talk about him in a bit. But you have Kenny Omega, who's the champion. You have Christian Cage, who's competing for it right now, but I don't think he's going to be in the World Championship picture much longer after this point. You have Brian Danielson, who I think will be in that title picture, but I'll talk about it more a little bit later on. You know, AEW right now doesn't really have a top baby face. So I think Adam Cole is either going to join the Elite or feud with the Elite. I think if he feuds with the Elite, you have more of a chance of him actually competing for the World Championship. If he joins the Elite, I think that chance goes down a lot. So it kind of depends on what you guys want to see Adam Cole do. And like I said, with Adam Cole being part of the Elites with so many other guys, I don't think he's going to get lost in the shuffle. It's Adam Cole. Adam Cole is hot off of his NXT run. They're not going to bury Adam Cole. They're not going to push him to the side. But this means that he's beneath Kenny Omega. So he is not going to be a main event star right away, which is fine. You have Bryan Danielson and CM Punk and so many other names. He doesn't need to be a main eventer right away. But what I think this does is that this creates the illusion of a four-man fact, not even an illusion. This creates a four-man faction similar to the Undisputed Era, where you can have Kenny Omega as the AEW World Champion. The Young Bucks were the Tag Team Champions, no longer, so forget about it. But now you can have Adam Cole as the role to really cement the TNT Championship with the Elite. I can easily see Adam Cole going up against Miro very soon and beating Miro with help from the Elite to become the TNT Champion. And yes, that'll be a heel versus heel match. But Miro being the Redeemer, you know, it makes sense if he needs help to beat Miro. So that makes sense to me. I think that's very realistic. What do you guys think? But after Adam Cole is out there celebrating, Kenny Omega's like, yeah, he's with us. What else did you think was going to happen, bitch? What you expect to happen? What did you think was going to happen? Of course, he bids us adieu. But then we hear Flight of the Valkyries, a trap remix of Flight of the Valkyries, and out comes Bryan Danielson, the former Daniel Bryan of WWE. He comes down to the ring. He goes after the Elites. He hits a running knee onto onto Nick Jackson, and ends out the show posing tall with Jurassic Express and Christian Cage. AEW is so heavily invested in Jurassic Express. I love it. I love that they are so heavily invested in Jungle Boy. They're not quite yet ready to put the title on him, but they keep him in the main event spot. Take note of that. Take note of the fact that even though Jungle Boy is not the TNT champion, even though Jungle Boy is not the tag team champion, even though Jungle Boy is not the AEW World Champion, he is in main event storylines and with main eventers just about every single week. And if he's not in the main events, he's in a prominent spot. So Jungle Boy's spot in AEW is very well protected. Luchasaurus, I felt like he could have been something way bigger than what he is right now, but he's with Jungle Boy, so he's good. Marco Stunt, I mean, he's managing them, so I mean, they're not going to do anything special with Marco Stunt. But he is doing stuff on Dark, so that's good. I feel like if they really, truly wanted to, they could do Marco and Luchasaurus teaming up. You know, the whole maybe Spike Dudley, Bubba Ray type deal. They could do that. And maybe have them go after the tag team championships and have Jungle Boy go after the TNT championships. That'd be cool. Or when the trios championships come through, Jurassic Express is the top prospect to win them. That's what I'm thinking. Bryan Danielson is officially in All Elite Wrestling, and it looks like he is primed to start a feud with the Elite. There was a backstage media scrum after All Out, and they crossed paths. Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole did. So that's a potential matchup right there. I believe that we are possibly, now this might be me being very forward, because I want a fucking title match at Arthur Ashe Stadium. Chicago got CM Punk and Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson. We better get something. Might be me being personal here. But I see a Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega match at Arthur Ashe Stadium in 2 weeks' time. Now, you might be saying, it's very early, it's too early. But Bryan Danielson is a big name. And he main evented WrestleMania literally 5 months ago. So if he wanted to come in here and challenge Kenny Omega, I say, why the fuck not? Why the fuck not challenge Kenny Omega? All that Kenny Omega has to do is say yes. He wants to prove that he's not the best and prove that Daniel Bryan better get his ass to the back of the line after he beats his ass. So listen, I think we should get Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship at Arthur Ashe Stadium. Now, it could end in DQ. Now, that'd be a horrible way to end out the show. It could end faulty with Kenny Omega retaining, or they could swerve the hell out of everybody and have Bryan Danielson beat Kenny Omega and put the title on him very, very early and skyrocket Bryan Danielson into the main event scene of AEW. I mean, personally, if they want to do the latter, who would be mad? Who would be mad if Bryan Danielson came in and beat Kenny Omega this soon for the World Championship? The only thing I don't like about that idea is that it ices Hangman Page. Mind you, Kenny Omega, I mean, Hangman Page is already on ice because he took time off. Now, obviously, I'm not blaming him for taking time off, but because he is out of action, that led CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, and Adam Cole to come in and take a lot of his fire away. So, I feel like him coming in, back in, he's not going to be as hot as he was. It's just not going to be the case. He's not going to be red hot. He's not going to be the top guy the way he would have been if he would have stayed. Once again, not blaming him for leaving because he had a child or is having a child. Not saying that he shouldn't have. I'm saying that because he did, he risked losing his spots, which may have happened. So if Bryan Danielson does have this match and does beat Kenny Omega, I think we might be seeing that Kenny Omega Hangman Page storyline. It might continue just without Hangman Page contending for the World Championship. I think what might happen is that we might very well get that Kenny Omega Hangman Page match at Full Gear 2021, but in this sense, where the winner faces Bryan Danielson for the AEW World Championship at a later date. Maybe even at Revolution. Why not that? Why not do Kenny Omega Hangman Page at Full Gear and the winner faces Bryan Danielson? Hangman Page versus Bryan Danielson sounds like a great match to me. And if you have the time, you can build Hangman Page back up to that main event scene as a babyface to challenge Bryan Danielson. And even if you want to, you could turn Bryan Danielson heel in time for that feud and make him a top, because Bryan Danielson as a babyface against Hangman Page as a babyface just sounds like a recipe for Bryan Danielson to be more over. So I feel like if you go that route, you have to turn Bryan Danielson heel, which I'm not going to hate because Daniel Bryan has shown before that he could be a great heel. So I believe that he can do it. And with Bryan Danielson being able to curse and showing tenacity that he's never seen before, I buy it. I buy it. As a matter of fact, I ship it. Give me Bryan Danielson versus Hangman Page at Revolution. I'm here for it. What do you guys think? Comment down below, let me know. But that was your AEW All Out review. Let's talk a little bit about Stardom. Utami Hayashishita and Syuri had a match at 5-Star Grand Prix. It was a good match, not as great as their Tokyo Dream Cinderella match, but this match also, much like the Tokyo Dream Cinderella match, ended in a time limit draw. Now this time they couldn't rematch because it's a tournament, and both women got 1 point. But it seems as if right now, though Micah is leading the charge on Blue Stars, that Syuri is still primed to win that block. And I believe that Syuri will still win Blue Stars, and will go to the finals and win. Because they just announced that on October the 9th, they will be having a show. On October the 9th, Stardom will be going back to Osaka-jo Hall, which will be the first Joshi Puro event held in Osaka-jo Hall since 1995. So this is a big deal, a big show. It will be Stardom Grand Final Osaka Dream Cinderella. Now, I don't know why it's called Osaka Dream Grand Final, considering that the finals of the tournament is happening on September 25th. But hey, albeit that May. That I predict is where we're going to have the champion versus the winner of the 5-star Grand Prix match. If that is the case, that is the destination for the rematch of Utami and Syuri. Now, on that show confirmed already, we have the return of Hazuki, who just a week ago returned to basically stardom and basically told Mayu that, hey, I'm back, bitch. And just this week, she challenged Kojima to a match on the show, so that's official. Hazuki's now back in stardom. She's faces Kojima on October 9th. This Osaka Joe Hall show is going to be a big show, and I believe they're going to stack it up big. They already have Hazuki on the show. I think that Syuri versus Utami is the destination to do it. That's what I believe. Now, New Japan. Wrestle Grandslam at MetLife Dome. I did not watch the 5th show. The September 5th show, I just didn't. I didn't care. But I did check out the September 4th show. On that show, I saw Hiromu Takahashi and Bushi versus Tiger Mask and Robbie Eagles. Really good tag team match that Robbie Eagles won by pinning Bushi with the CR2. Yo versus Show. I enjoyed this match on the first go-round. The second go-round, I felt like I liked it the first time more. But it was a good match. It was longer than I expected. I felt like the length, it should have been the main event of the show, honestly. But they had a really good match. 20 minutes into the match, referee gets knocked down. And Show attempts to bring a chair into the match. And Yo stops him with a super kick. And this time, Yo is in possession of the chair, threatening to bludgeon Show, who is begging for mercy. And Yo, wielding the chair, stops short and hits a super kick instead. And then Show rises to his feet for a butterfly, but Show seeks the opportunity to low blow Yo instead, cementing his heel turn. Now, he's already a heel at this point, but he cements it with the low blow. Now, because he did the Yo blow on the show, because he did the low blow on the Yo, I should have saw the ending coming. But I still did not think it was going to happen. Either way, he low blows Yo, cracks him in the head with a steel chair, wakes up the referee, stops short of the pinfall, and locks him in a Hell's Gate-like submission, which I don't know too many wrestlers that do the Hell's Gate. Obviously, that's an Undertaker move. But the Hell's Gate seems to be a new submission for a show here. And Yo passes out. And right after the match, after the steel chair crack to the head, after the low blow, I still did not see this coming. But out comes the Bullet Club. Evil, Dick Togo, Ghetto, Yujiro come out to the ring with a Bullet Club shirt, and they hand it over the Show. Show officially joining the Bullet Club. And I'm not going to lie to you, I was a little aggro, because I was like, you have United Empire, who's in desperate need of more people. You have Will Ospreay in the States, the leaders in the States. You have the Great Okan, Jeff Cobb, and Aaron Hart. There's only 3 people in that faction, and no juniors. That faction needed another person. But no. Suzuki-gun is a person that they alluded to Show joining. He turned on Yo after his match and was kind of a little bit looking at Suzuki like, maybe. But no. He joins the Bullet Club. The Bullet Club that has more than enough members already. Let me look at this real quick. They have more than enough people. They just had my guy Chris Bay join the Bullet Club, at least in America, but still part of the Bullet Club. I love Chris Bay. I love him to death. But he just joined the Bullet Club. So let me go through all the current members of the Bullet Club right now. As we speak, in the Bullet Club, you have Yujiro Takahashi, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, Taiji Ishimori, Kenta, Jay White, Jado, Hikuleo, Evil, Ghetto, El Phantasmo, Dick Togo, Chase Owens, Bad Luck Fale, and Chris Bay. All those men are members of the Bullet Club. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 members of the Bullet Club. LIJ has 5 members Suzuki-gun has maybe 7 members. Chaos has 1 less, so maybe like 6 now. And United Empire has 3. But the Bullet Club has 16 members. Are you fucking kidding me? You needed another member? For what? For what exactly? See, I ain't gonna lie, I was a little aggravated when I saw that, because I love Sho. I love Sho to death. I think Sho's a great wrestler and he has a lot of potential. But there's so many people in that faction. You really think they're gonna push Sho? You really think Sho's gonna be the top guy of the... But no, the fuck he's not. I'm sorry, he's not going to be. And on top of the fact that you have El Phantasmo and Taiji Ishimori as your cemented junior tag team in that faction. Now you add in Sho, you think he's going to take the reins away from El Phantasmo? No. Sho's probably going to end up teaming with Taiji. You think Sho's going to go to the Never division? No. I don't understand why Sho joined the Bullet Club. There's more than enough members there. And then on top of that, he was handed the shirt by Evil, which is the kiss of fucking death. That is the worst person to be associated with. Evil has got to be the absolute worst thing about one of the worst wrestlers in New Japan right now. Terrible matches. All of his matches are bullshit with bullshit endings. Clouded with a bunch of interferences. And his moveset was dumbed down. Who's to say that Sho's moveset won't be fucking dumbed down? If Sho is managed by Dick Togo, that's the end of his career. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, for the love of God, please let Sho just be on his own. He could come out with fucking El Phantasmo and Matt Balak Fale, and I don't care who he comes out with. But for the love of all that is holy, please keep Dick Togo the fuck away from him. Because what he did to Evil was criminal arson. And I do not want to see the same happen to Sho. Because he deserves more than that. A whole botch on New Japan's end. After that, you had Chase Owens versus Toru Yano. I skipped that match. But that match was the longest match on the show. Toru Yano and Chase Owens had a 28-minute long I Quit match. Ridiculous. Jeff Cobb versus Kazuchika Okada followed. That was a good match. Jeff Cobb won with the Tour of the Islands. Shocked, not gonna lie, thought Okada was winning that one. Main event of the show was Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kota Ibushi for the IWGP United States Championship. Pretty cool to see the U.S. Championship main eventing a MetLife Dome show. That was great. Nice to see that representation in there. Kota Ibushi and Tanahashi have had amazing matches in the past. This was a really good match. Definitely the weakest one they had. The Tanahashi won. He retained the U.S. Championship. What's next? I don't know. I don't really care. But they did announce the blocks officially for G1 Climax, which I did cover in my previous video, which I already said and confirmed that I have unsubscribed from NJPW World, so I will not be watching this year's G1 Climax. But confirmed for this year's G1 Climax. On A block, you have Kota Ibushi, Tomohiro Ishii, Toru Yano, Shingo Takagi, Tetsuya Naito, Zack Sabre Jr., The Great Okan, Kenta, Tonga Loa, and Yujiro Takahashi. And in B block, you have Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kazuchika Okada, Hiroki Goto, Yoshihashi, Sanada, Taichi, Jeff Cobb, Evil. Wait, back up. Evil. Tama Tonga, and Chase Owens. Honestly, one of the weakest, if not the weakest lineup for a G1 Climax I've ever seen. Which is part of the reason why I'm not watching this year's G1 Climax. They've already confirmed the days for matches are going to happen. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. I don't care. On day 2, they're already going to do Tanahashi versus Okada. So right after day 2, don't even bother watching the rest of B block because there's nothing else in B block that's worth watching at this point. Just looking at the block laid out. Maybe Yoshihashi versus Evil, but it's Evil now, so maybe not. But I figured I would give my predictions for who I believe is going to win the tournament. Now, personally, I would like to see Shingo win the tournament and choose his opponent, because they already confirmed we're not getting 1 night, we're not getting 2 nights, but we're getting 3 nights of Wrestle Kingdom 16. 2 nights in the Tokyo Dome, 1 night in Yokohama Arena. So, firstly, it don't matter who the fuck wins G1 Climax, because they are not the ultimate winner. The real winners are the G1 Climax winners and whoever beats Shingo in A Block. So I'm going to say who I believe is going to win G1 Climax and who I believe is going to challenge. I'm going to basically give you my predictions for who Shingo's opponents will be at Wrestle Kingdom. Because there is no title unification this year, because the title's already been unified. So, for A Block, I predict that Tetsuya Naito will win A Block. And I believe that Kazuchika Okada will win B Block. It will get Naito and Okada in the G1 Climax Finals. Now, personally, I do not want to see this, because I believe that Okada and Naito had a perfect ending to their saga at Wrestle Kingdom. But something is telling me that is going to happen. And when it happens, I believe that Kazuchika Okada will win G1 Climax 31 and will face Shingo Takagi on night 1 of Wrestle Kingdom 16. Now, who will face him on night 2 and 3 of Wrestle Kingdom 13? Because you can't have Wrestle Kingdom and not have the world title defended. So here's what I believe. In A Block, you have Kota Ibushi, Tomohiro Ishii, Toru Yano, Tetsuya Naito, Zack Sabre Jr., The Great Okan, Kenta, Tangaloa, Yujiro Takahashi. I can see 2 things happening. I can see Kota Ibushi beating Shingo and getting a match at Wrestle Kingdom. And I can also see Tomohiro Ishii beating Shingo on day 1 and getting a match at Wrestle. Now listen, I might be stretching it here. I know Ishii's their guy, but he is not their guy to be in the main event of the Tokyo Dome. But listen, Shingo and Ishii have that rivalry that's like, you could put them in any spot and they'll have great matches. I think if there were any point in time to make a main event of a Tokyo Dome or Yokohama with Ishii in the main event, it's a 3-night event like that. So if it's not Ishii, it's Naito. But I think it's going to be Okada, it's going to be Kota Ibushi, and it's going to be Tomohiro Ishii challenging Shingo Takagi in 3 series of matches at Wrestle Kingdom in January 2022. And that is Chillspo Podcast episode 64. What do you guys think? Comment down below. Let your boy know. I love you guys as always, and I will see you all next week for episode 65. Peace out, guys.